This is Leith Forest.
Great to have your company on this Monday afternoon, the 30th day of April, sitting in for Alan Hickey, who's on the sick list, but he'll be back in no time, I'm sure. Now, this being a Monday, it is time to shine a light on our state. We do love this. We get to speak to the people, the movers and shakers of our great state, and find out what is happening. I'm delighted to be joined by Brian Oldman, who's the Director of the South Australian Museum. Brian, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming in. Hey, you're practically a local now.
I am. I came from London just over 4 years ago, so I'm becoming increasingly more Australian.
You came over for the museum gig?
I did indeed, yeah. The South Australian Museum was looking for a new director, and I saw being a director of a great museum as my next career move, and the two of us have come together, and it's been happiness and joy ever since.
Like every Englishman that comes to town, things that you love most about Adelaide?
Certainly compared to London, the weather, particularly a day like today. But I think the friendliness of the city and the ease of getting around, because London sometimes is not the easiest city to get around. I think the average speed is about 3 miles an hour in the car, I think.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Hey, before we talk about the museum, so when the Ashes are on, foot in both camps, or are you...
Increasingly so. Increasingly so.
Okay, good. We'll claim you as our own. Hey, it's great to have you in. Every great city has a great museum, and we are very blessed in our city that we have a museum of this quality.
Absolutely. I mean, what I find when I came to Adelaide is everyone is really fond of the little old museum on North Terrace, and what I find is that actually the reputation of the museum is greater the further you get away from Adelaide, and what we actually have at that museum is world-class collections, world-class research, and when we've now got some world-class exhibitions, so we should really be proud of the South Australian Museum on North Terrace.
You notice the visitation rates just go up and up and up and up.
It is now, yeah. For about a decade they were sitting around the 680, 700,000 mark, but in fact we've been slowly building those, and actually this year we're actually estimating a record year at the South Australian Museum, where we're pretty confident we're going to break 800,000 visitors, which will be awesome if we can achieve that.
Great, isn't it?
It's exciting.
Do you know why? I mean, the quality of exhibitions, obviously, the facilities.
It's a whole host of things. It's the exhibitions, it's the programming. We're putting more of our exciting research and collections out on show. We've got some great partnerships. We were a venue for the Fringe. We've been a venue for the festival. We did a link up with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. So we're really linking into cultural partnerships all around the state, and I think that's just really building and adding to it. So there's no doubt about it. The museum is the place to be.
How great were the lights in the Fringe when you walked?
Those were awesome.
Weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky because I got to see them most nights. But the Aurora Borealis, which was going over the front lawn of the museum, people were just lying on the lawn, just looking at all these amazing light effects for hours on end. It was amazing.
I've just come off 2 weeks of school holidays with my kids. Everyone's talking about Dinosaur Revolution. You must be. This is the last week for people to go and see it?
Yeah. It closes on Sunday, May the 6th, and we've had over 45,000 visitors to that exhibition, and in fact it overhauled our Opal exhibition. We had 27,000 visitors for that, but it's absolutely leapfrogged that, and it is going to be the museum's record-breaking exhibition. We're really, really proud of that.
People love dinosaurs.
They do. They love.
Is it the size, do you think? Is it I don't know, the aura about it? Or
it is. It's the size, the scale, the roars. We have these enormous skulls and skeletons that are in there. But the important thing is it's not just about like a theme park. What we've got in is real cutting-edge research in there. So we've discovered over the last 20 years or so that actually dinosaurs, the relics of dinosaurs today are actually birds. They came from the dinosaur population when this enormous meteorite hit Earth about 60 million years ago and wiped out dinosaurs in a couple of years. The dinosaur population that survived were the birds, and that's the remnants of that you can see today. So we've done that whole linkage and showing about how dinosaurs had feathers, how they had hollow bones, some of them could fly, and actually the linkage between the period of the dinosaur and today. And that's the new news that we're putting out to all our visitors.
You know the thing too with dinosaurs, it's not age specific, like kids go through, younger kids, they love them, older
kids like myself love them as well. Yeah. And in fact, we've got Professor Mike Lee, who's one of the world's experts in dinosaurs at the museum. And he actually started off as a small boy up in Queensland, being absolutely transfixed with them now. And now he's a dad himself and bringing up his own children to like them. So yeah, it's a timeless interest. And we've had so many families where I think the parents have been learning as much as the kids have about dinosaurs.
Funnily, it's normally the kids dragging parents. It's parents dragging their kids in. Let's go and see this. So you've got another week to do that. I'm speaking to Brian Oldman, Director of the South Australian Museum. You have so many great exhibitions. That's the thing. And I'm sort of spoiled now because my kids are at that school age where we'll go and assist and we'll be part of that as well. We went to the Noora exhibition recently.
Yeah, that was part of the Tarnandy Aboriginal Cultural Festival, which was around at the end of last year. And Noora was really looking at contemporary Aboriginal living in the Narrandera land, just over the border into WA. And we looked at the long-standing culture of those people right the way through to today, and all the things that they do in terms of painting, sculpture and architecture and stuff like that. And that actually became our most visited Aboriginal exhibition ever as well. So it was really a breakthrough in that respect.
So you think the success of an exhibition like that, then people, it's great that you must feel real pride being right in amongst it at the museum, that you're putting on exhibitions that people want to come and see, and you learn stuff as well. That's the thing that not only the kids, but it's people are interested and they want to be educated about.
Exactly, and of course everyone's aware of the museum. Everybody loves it. But actually, you've got to create the reason for people to come this month, this week, today. And if you only know the dinosaur exhibition's got another week to go, you're going to absolutely make sure that you get down there and see it. So it's really putting on exciting programs that makes everybody want to come to the museum.
How does that actually work? Do people come to you and they say, you know what, we've got this idea for an exhibition, Brian, can we do this, or do you search for them?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. What we do is we have great collections, and what we try to do is to ensure that all our different collection areas over a period of time are all represented in the programme. And also we do shows. Some of them are specialists, some of them are highly technical, and some of them actually are just downright popular. And we make sure that we've really got that mixed programme over a period of time, because the important thing is, being the State Museum, we have to make sure that we're connecting with everybody. We shouldn't be elitist, we shouldn't be out of reach. Actually, we need to make sure that we're doing our best to connect the collections and the knowledge that we have with all the people in South Australia.
As I mentioned before, every great city has a great museum, and it's a real jewel in our crown, the museum on North Terrace. And the thing I would urge too for people, if they've been recently, you can go again. That's the beauty of the different exhibitions, that you don't say, well, I've been to the museum this year, I'll go in a couple more years. You need to almost go. You
need to keep going. And also remember as well, although the exhibitions are great, we have amazing galleries, and to get into the galleries, it's for free. So it means that you can pop in, you can be there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, and you can pick one particular gallery. It might be our Aboriginal Cultures Gallery, or our amazing Opals Gallery, or it might be into polar exploration, and you can pop in there for 15 minutes and learn something and then pop out again. And that way you get the most out of your museum.
I always wonder how you get things in. You know, like I saw the canoes that were in the Indigenous sort of collection. I'm thinking, how are you getting those through the door?
It's too well. We actually have some very big side doors which are slightly camouflaged, so not everyone can see them. We have those, and also we have some very strong guys at the museum as well. You need those two crucial ingredients.
Got those big lifters,
and usually me to watch.
Every good job needs a foreman. The Dinosaur Revolution, so that's got a week to go. The Noora exhibition we spoke about. Other exhibitions coming up that people should be aware of?
Yeah, the next exhibition we've got opening is to the public on June the 8th, and it is the return of the Waterhouse Natural Science Art Prize, and that is now a biennial. It happens every 2 years, and this is a really unique exhibition for Australia. It's the only exhibition which actually looks at art and science coming together, and it's an art prize exhibition. So the winner of the open exhibition has a prize of $30,000. We also have an emerging artist prize as well, which is about $10,000. And in fact, we've already I've been honoured to be on the panel of judges, and we've selected the 85 finalists. We'll be revealing who those are fairly soon, and it's really interesting to see these artists take on science, and this can be in all sorts of different forms. We've got glasswork, metalwork, we've got painting, we've got video art, and people taking inspiration from nature and science and translating that into art.
Because I was interested to work out how that works. How do you combine art and science together?
Well, it can be in terms of observation, and so you could actually look at a bird or an animal or a landscape, and you can paint that, and there's sort of art and nature and science coming together. Or it can actually be something that's a little bit more observational. So one of the trends that we've seen in recent years years is people are very much concerned about the marine environment, and often they're putting together some quite challenging images about man's impact on his environment. So there's very much a lot of social observation going on, which I think really takes the art and science onto a new level. And it's something that probably all of us can relate to because we're concerned about the environment today, but also the environment tomorrow for our children.
I saw one of those exhibitions once. It was a gigantic whale that had been made, a model of a whale with its mouth open full of plastic.
Yeah.
And it was to show you the impact that humans had had on marine life. And you looked at it and it was so lifelike that it looked like it could be, you know, an art installation or the real thing.
Yeah, and I think that also shows the power of science and art, because by communicating a message like that, you're now finding that supermarket groups are now having policies where they want to cut down on the amount of plastic in their products that they're selling to us. And I think that really shows that the awareness of plastic in the sea has now become an issue. I think art and science has played its role to get prominence to that issue, and now it's beginning to influence our behaviour, and I think that can only be a good thing.
We're going to take a short break. It is 18 minutes to 2 here on 5AA. My guest today, as we talk all things about our state, is Brian Oldman, the Director of the South Australian Museum. If you've got a comment about the museum, if you've been of recent times, or a question for Brian, 8223 0000 is the number, but lots more to tell you about next. It is 1:45, sitting in for Alan Hickey, who's unwell this afternoon. Before we get back to my very special guest, we're talking about our state, and Brian Oldman's here, the Director of the South Australian Museum. Brian, again, thank you for coming in. It's great to have you here in the studio. We love talking about our state. We love shining the light too on the museum, which is a real treat for us here in North Adelaide. Just before we get on to everything else happening at the museum, I mentioned earlier, after speaking with the Lord Mayor, we're very blessed, and as a man who lived in London for, well, your life, the architecture on North Terrace is beautiful. The museum itself, structurally, not only what you've got in there, but the museum, the buildings themselves, just superb.
Yeah, it's arguably the finest cultural boulevard in the world. I'm really proud to be there. It is some great architecture. We've got this beautiful front lawn out the front as well. So it's an amazing place to spend some time. And thankfully, more and more people are wandering down North Terrace to visit the museum or the gallery, or as you say, those wonderful lights that were shining during the Fringe. So it's a great way to spend some time.
You've got those wonderful water structures too that sit out the front of the museum.
Yeah, they are. Those are actually dinosaur vertebrae, so you can scramble over a bit of natural history.
People have sat on those though, not knowing it, realising that it was water, and all of a sudden, whoops.
Yeah, uncomfortable journey home.
It is an uncomfortable journey. Hey, let's talk about the museum and the access to the museum. And that's something you've got to think about too, isn't it? To make it achievable for everyone to come and enjoy it.
It's really something I take personally very seriously, is that we're a public collection. We are the State Museum, and that means that we have to ensure that we are as accessible to everybody as much as possible, irrespective of where you're located in the state, or indeed whether you have any disability at all. And so we've been working very hard on that in terms of special tours which we can give for people who have some hearing challenges or some visual challenges. But also we've had a special push this year in terms of getting to becoming more autism friendly. And in fact, we had a training course which virtually everybody at the museum attended in the last month or so, and now the South Australian Museum is autism accredited.
Wow,
so that visitors who visit us on the autism spectrum, we are now in the best possible position to welcome them and provide them with a suitable tour. And we worked really closely with Autism SA, so we could understand what was required to assist people on an autism spectrum. And in fact, we had a special showing of the dinosaur exhibition for people on the autism spectrum. We opened early in the morning for them, and we turned the volume down. We showed them exactly what the tour was going to be. We welcomed them, and we had 120 places. We advertised it on the website, and all the places got taken up in 40 minutes. Such was the demand. So we'll be making sure we put plenty more of those on.
Gee, that's a great initiative, isn't it? Because that's the thing. You want the museum to be accessible to everybody, be it autism or some other kind of situation that somebody may face. You never want to not be able to go to the museum and experience this.
Well, no, I think everyone who lives in the state should feel that they have got the right to be able to visit the museum and get the most out of it in terms terms which are acceptable to them. So, we're constantly recognising what different people's needs are, and then we try to put the programmes in place to do that. So I'm really proud of our disability access programme. We've been really putting that onto focus for the last 3 or 4 years, and I think we're really showing a lot of leadership in this area, which other cultural organisations can learn from. So I'm really proud of that.
It's not only great for people with autism, it's great for parents. A lot of parents, I'm sure, that have autistic children will be saying, you know what, it's just too difficult to go to a museum because... rightly or wrongly, and you're the best person to ask, the protocols of a museum, the days of them being sort of stuffy and quiet and go, now it's sort of, there are things that you can touch and move and listen and play. That's all changed.
That's it. And there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of expectations of, a dinosaur can suddenly roar at you really loudly, and that could be, for some people, a shocking experience. So we try to make sure that the environment in which people can visit is the one where they can get the most out of it. And I think in that way, we're better meeting the needs of the people of the state. And as a states museum, I think that's incredibly important.
You mentioned not only accessible for people here in the cities, that's something you've got to think about with the outreach program. You've got to actually, not everyone can get into North Terrace. That's something that you're looking over?
No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, a lot of what we do at the museum exhibits some amazing parts of the state. So we have, Ediacaran fossils, which are it is the time when complex life on Earth began 550 million years ago. That was first identified in the Ediacaran Hills in the Flinders Ranges. And so it's important that actually that history is told as well. So we have an enormous outreach programme. We've been going up to the APY land now since 2010, doing school visits there. But we go out west to Ceduna, we go down into the Riverland, we've been down into Kangaroo Island, up in Lee Creek. And in fact, we've even got an exhibition on at the moment at Signal Point Gallery in Goolwa. There we are, down by the sea, and Dr. Andrea Crowther, who's our senior collection manager for our marine collection, put in an amazing display there that's all about sea life. And so in that way, we can take the collection out to other parts of the state, and that people can get access to it. And also it means that the gallery down in Goolwa have got a really great exhibition to bring visitors to their gallery.
It's a beautiful gallery too. I remember taking the kids in vacation care there once. It's fantastic. That's great. You can take it like a big travelling roadshow so nobody misses out.
Exactly, and you can probably do a bit more paddling in Goolwa than you can in the little fountain outside of the museum on North Terrace.
Talk about research and science with us for a second as well. You've been involved in some citizen science programs?
Yeah. I mean, we've got some amazing research scientists at the museum, and we get more Australian Research Council grants annually than any other museum in Australia. But what's really important is that science is not all about the highbrow scientists. It's actually how ordinary people like you and me, can actually get involved in scientific studies. And we've got a really interesting one at the moment that's called Frog ID. People may not be aware, but actually frogs are in declining numbers in Australia as they are across the world. So we've done this program with the Australian Museum in Sydney, where you can download an app and you can record a frog that is perhaps singing in your garden. And if you upload that song, then actually they'll tell you exactly what sort of frog it is. Now, the important thing about that is
like
that
Frog Spotify.
It is Frog. That's a tough one. Frog Spotify. And also, what that does do is that gets uploaded into a frog map. So we can then chart where different frogs are across the whole of South Australia.
Wow,
so that's why you going out in your garden, recording a little froggy song can actually help science. I think that's amazing. We can all take part in that.
Oh, see, I've got to do that with the kids in the holidays. Just get the iPhone out.
Absolutely.
Find my nearest frog, record away, send it through. So whereabouts in the museum are you scientists?
They have a little building at the back, where they do all their little research studies. But in fact, that's not strictly true. They do come out into the galleries as well. They do some amazing talks, and I was privileged to be Professor Mike Lee, our dinosaur expert, did this amazing talk telling us all about dinosaurs. But also importantly, they go out into the state and do their research. So you'll find our fossil collectors are out in the Flinders, or they're out in Kangaroo Island collecting fossils and doing all sorts of things, or collecting the sounds of frogs as well.
That's amazing. Brian Oldman is my guest. He's the director of the South Australian Museum. Brian, if you want to put your headphones on, we've got a call from Andrew that we'll take in 1 second. Just before Andrew, I was going to ask the question, do you find yourself walking around the museum at times and you're like, you forget that you're the director sometimes? You're just like sort of a punter that's walked through the door?
Totally. I mean, I walk through the museum every day, and can I tell you something? I learn something new every day. And that's one of the privileges of doing my job.
That's great. Andrew from Greenwith has a question for you. Afternoon, Andrew.
Yeah, hi, how you going?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, Brian, I'd just like to ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
I've gone through my late grandfather's, who was quite a photographer, did a lot of work for the advertising and so forth as well.
Yep.
Now, he's got 2 photographs of an Aboriginal ceremony which was taken in the 50s, and we believe it's of a wedding, because they're all in ceremonial dress.
Yeah.
And he obviously, he's written a story about it and everything that's with the photographs. How would we make a donation like that to the museum?
Well, what you can do is we have a place called the Discovery Centre at the museum, and if you take that in and then lodge it with them, and they'll give you a receipt, then our archive department would then evaluate them. And if they were thought to be absolutely top-notch, we'd say, yeah, would you like to give them to the museum? And if you were agreeable, then we'd do that. Or we may say, well, actually, perhaps they're not quite what we thought they were, and that it's lovely to have a look at them, but you can have them.
That'd be great. No worries. Thanks for your help.
Good work, Andrew. Thank you for that. Do you get a lot of people do that?
They do, yeah. I mean, that's often how we get a lot of our collection items. It's things which have been in the family for a long time. There's, they're taking up a bit of room. People don't understand them too much, and so they want to give them to the museum. But of course, they've got to be of museum quality. We're not a sort of second-hand shop where we have all sorts of stuff. They've got to be in our collecting areas. But we're very, very open to that. One thing I would say, when we had our opal exhibition, the museum, thankfully, received many opals donated from people in South Australia, and a lot of them were opals which father, grandfather, grandmother, Granny's opal necklace, which were wonderful things, but just didn't want them anymore, and they've been donated into the museum's collection, and the museum has now got the biggest museum opal collection in the world.
Wow. Well, funnily enough, we had a caller ask off air, the gemstone collection at the museum. Where is that, if people want to go and check it out?
Well, our mineral collection is on the 3rd floor of the East Wing, so you can go up to them. We've got an amazing mineral collection, much of it coming from different parts of South Australia, but also we have, as with most museums, 90% of our collection is off-show, so we also have them under safe lock and key in our store areas, but we do rotate them, so you try to see as much of the collection as possible. It's
been great to have you in. Fascinating to hear all about the museum. Thank you again. Last question before I let you go. If you pipe dream, if you could have one wish, all the museums around the world, we've got a superb museum here in North Terrace. Is there an exhibition? Is there a piece? Is there a particular genre or something that you would love to get your hands on to show the people of South Australia?
I've been working on it, and I hope one day to do it, but I would love to bring a fantastic Egyptology show to the people of Adelaide. There's some amazing things out there, and I would love to show that amazing culture to the people of South Australia.
That would be terrific. Hey, Brian, thank you again for coming in. Urge everyone, the museum's open all the time?
It is 363 days of the year, from 10 until 5, but make sure you get there before May the 6th, because you can see Dinosaur Revolution.
Yes, right. You've got one more week to do it. Brian Oldman, Director of the South Australian Museum, thank you again for coming in, and we look forward to seeing you. We've had a few work shows there too. We've had launches and everything. It's a multi-functional venue.
You're always welcome.
The museum. You try not to break anything, but it's fantastic. Thanks again for coming in. Brian Oldman, my very special guest. We're going to take a break. 2 o'clock news coming up with